President Trump doubled down on his criticism of special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation Monday, calling it a, quote, witch hunt during a press conference with Vladimir Putin. Mr. Trump also said Mueller's investigation was to blame for the decline in relations between the U.S. and Russia. In that same press conference, President Putin offered to help out the special counsel's investigation.
That the appropriate commission headed by Special Attorney Mueller, he can use this treaty as a solid foundation and send an official request to us so that we would interrogate, we would hold a questioning of these individuals who he believes are privy to some crimes. And our law enforcement are perfectly able to do this questioning and send the appropriate materials to the United States. Moreover, we can meet you halfway, we can make another step. We can actually permit official representatives of the United States, including the members of this very commission headed by Mr. Mueller, we can let them into the country and they will be present at this questioning. But in this case, there is another condition. This kind of effort should be a mutual one. Then we would expect that the Americans would reciprocate.
Joining me now are Keir Dougall. He's a former Assistant U.S. Attorney for New York's Eastern District, and Rebecca Roiphe. She's a law professor at New York Law School and a former Assistant District Attorney in the New York County District's Attorney's Office. Thank you, both of you, for being here. Appreciate it. Pretty remarkable day. A lot to discuss. Rebecca, let me start with you. Is there any precedent that would suggest that Mueller would agree to allow Russian investigators to interview the 12 indicted while they just observed?
No, there's no precedent for that. That would be like asking mob counsel to interview mob members while you watched. There's no way in which that makes any sense, and it's such an odd request and such an odd concession.
Well, when you heard it, what was your reaction?
I mean, my reaction was shock that he would even suggest it. It seems so bizarre and so unusual. It's a little bit inscrutable.
So, Keir, let me ask you this. What about Putin's suggestion that the Mueller investigation become a joint venture, which would include interviewing Americans who have been critical of Russia, including Bill Browder and George Soros?
It sounds to me like an offer that would be put forward for its press value, something that would sound good, but that would be completely unacceptable to any reasonable prosecutor.
So, from a prosecutorial perspective, what would the benefit be of a joint venture?
There's no benefit of a joint venture from a prosecutorial point of view. Perhaps there's some benefit from a foreign policy perspective, though that seems questionable too. So then you have to question what the motivations are of this president at this particular moment.
So, Keir, let me ask you about this. There was another story that got our attention today, and there was a Russian woman who tried to arrange a pair of secret meetings between President Trump and Putin during the 2016 campaign. She was charged by the Justice Department for failing to register as a foreign agent. You've been looking into this. What's your assessment?
So the circumstances, as I understand them now, the way they're being reported right now, it appears as though the Justice Department was in a hurry and needed to do something quickly because this, as I understand it, was charged not by indictment yet, but by a complaint. If I have the facts correct, as I've read them, she was arrested yesterday and presented today for an arraignment. So to me, that suggests that there was some imperative that required them to act yesterday. In the reading I've done, she was apparently there was a search executed at her residence several months ago. She's testified before Congress. She's someone who they've known about for a while. But apparently they decided to arrest her quickly yesterday.
Rebecca, does this press conference between President Trump and President Putin help Mueller's request to interview the president?
I think the publicity surrounding the past couple of days helps Mueller significantly. I don't know, though. President Trump's response seems so unpredictable and so unprecedented that it seems hard to know what he's actually going to do, or how some of his henchmen are going to react, how Rudy Giuliani is going to react, how he would react to a request for an interview. They've consistently been putting it off. I would be surprised if they allowed him to do it now.
If the president refuses, what happens next?
There's a legal battle. There's a legal battle that I would predict, and most experts would predict he would lose. However, at the end of it, how you enforce an order on a president is a very complicated issue that could end up in a constitutional crisis.
There's so much played out today. Is it becoming harder for the president to build a case for firing Mueller?
I think so. I think what we see from the indictment of the 12 Russian intelligence officers last week is that our intelligence apparatus and the Justice Department can reach halfway around the world and identify covert Russian operatives and name them in an indictment. And so if there were Americans that were involved in this exercise, the idea that they would be able to escape identification and perhaps indictment seems extremely far-fetched. So I think I agree with Rebecca that these latest developments work definitely in the special counsel's favor. And if the evidence leads to President Trump and his testimony is required, I think this will help special counsel Mueller in his effort to obtain that testimony.
So what are we looking for next in the investigation?
I would look for continued arrests. I would expect to see the special counsel continue to follow the evidence, and I would look to see more indictments and more arrests, because even in what we've seen so far, there are other individuals identified not by name but by role in the facts as they're being alleged in these indictments. And if the special counsel can find proof that these people were conspiring with or aiding these efforts to hack computers or run a fake social media campaign or other efforts, back-channel communications like we see today, I would expect the special counsel to arrest and indict additional people.
Anything else you want to that you're looking for?
I would just add that I think the next round is going to be Americans. This particular indictment is, in a way, information, because those 12 Russians are never going to see the inside of a courtroom. So what that indictment accomplished was convey information, critical information, to the American public. It also set up, though didn't finish, a story. And I think that there's more that's coming, and I think the next round of people are going to be Americans.
All right, Keir Dougall, Rebecca Roiphe, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.